yardy harmy hearties. Sorry, that was probably annoying. Anyway, welcome to how to build your own car in Space Engineers. The basics, the rule of thumbs of how to create your own cars in Space Engineers. So I'm gonna have a very default car here that I have set up. I'm gonna show you or tell you about the general design choices you want to make when you're actually building the car, which you can bend if you want to. It's probably not going to do extremely much, but you want to stick relatively close to these design choices to get the best performance. And then I'm going to show you the settings. I'm going to show you how it looks when you have too high settings, and how it looks when you have too low settings, and how the settings looks when they are just right. So first of all, the design choices we're going to have is the basic shape of the car. Now you want the car to be between 2 and 3 times longer than it is wide. So this is a 9 wide by 24 long car. Now we have an even number because we are using the 5x5 wheels. That is the second design choice that you're going to have. I would recommend the 5x5 wheels over the other wheels, even if they are way too large for the car you're trying to build. Just use the 5x5 wheels and build a bigger car. They're not more expensive. They're not much more expensive, to be honest. They're a little bit more expensive, but not much. Not so that it matters price-wise, but they are much, much better than the 3x3 wheels for some unknown reason. The second is that this is the right side up. So there is actually an orientation to the wheels, which I didn't know for like the longest time ever, but now I know, and I'm telling you so you know as well. So these are the general design choices. 5x5 wheels are the absolutely only option for me now. 2 to 3 times longer than it is wide. You can make it a little bit shorter if you want to, but this is a really good a 1x20 2.5 is like perfect. Make it look kind of like a real car. I would recommend 6 wheels. You could put 8 in if you want to. If you have a really heavy car, I would probably recommend putting in another set of wheels. But you don't have to. You don't have to. I would recommend having these 2, so you have 6 instead of 4, because it helps a lot. And then you want 1 gyroscope, or 2 if you have a really heavy car, but you want a little bit of gyroscopic effect to help stabilize the car. You want power, and that's basically all you need. Now, we're gonna take a look at the settings. So, first of all, we want to take a look at how good settings behave. So we're gonna drop this car from above, and we're gonna see that it does not bounce. Well, it did bounce a little bit, but it does not bounce a lot. That is very important. Also, the wheels did travel up and down, so there was movement in the suspension when we dropped it from a medium height. Now, that wasn't extreme heights. Let's see if we do extreme heights. I have not done that before, but that's a pretty hard drop. And the suspension didn't reach the top. It didn't go all the way to the top here. It went pretty far, but not to the top, even from a really, really high drop. I mean, that was an extremely high drop, but it was a pretty high drop. So those are how good settings look like. Now, let's take a look at the wheel settings before we continue here, and I show you how they look if they are not optimal. So the only settings that I have changed is that the back wheels, or the middle wheels, they're not turning, and the dampening and the strength. Those are the only things that I have changed. The friction, you never need to change, same as the height, offset, and suspension travel. You do not need to change those on any car, basically. The speed limit I would recommend turning down so that you're not driving too fast, because driving too fast, this doesn't matter what car you have, you will crash eventually. The power settings, you don't want to go overboard on this, but basically you want a slow acceleration for your car. So if you have a light car, you don't want to have too much power. If you have a heavy car, you don't want too little power. And you'll need to find the balance yourself. Basically, you want an acceleration that looks something like this. It's not extremely fast, it's not extremely slow, it's a good balance. So, dampening. We're gonna start with dampening because it's a pretty important Actually, it's probably the most important setting for wheels. So I'm gonna do a drop here, and you're gonna see that the dampening is too low. The car is bouncing. So this is how it looks if the dampening is too high. Nothing really happens. Now this is very close to when the strength is too high. Let's take a look at that again. What you see is that the suspension is not moving at all, and what that means is that you don't have any suspension anymore. You have completely disabled the suspension. So we're gonna put the suspension or the dampening back to what it was, which was about 40%, which was a pretty good value. Let's take a look at that again. We have now the correct amount of dampening, and what you'll see is movement, no bouncing, and that's just the Goldilocks zone right there for the dampening. So that is how you find your dampening. Now you're probably not going to be able to lift your car into the air and drop it in your survival world, but you can see the same effects while driving the car. If you're bouncing too much, turn up the dampening. If the suspension isn't moving enough, turn it down. The easiest way to find this out is to turn the dampening down too much, and then just slowly turn it up until you stop bouncing. Now we don't have enough strength, which means that it's gonna hang around in the middle, and when we drop this car from a height, it's gonna hit the bottom of the suspension. As you see, the car almost hit the ground, which means that we have too little suspension strength, and now we are finally, of course, going to take a look at too much strength. Well, it bounces, but that was not really the point. The reason it bounced was because the suspension is not doing anything at all. The easiest way to actually calibrate this is when you're rolling. So let's do that. Turned off handbrake, and we are now slowly rolling. And take a look at the background on the wheels. We'll turn it down. That's too little. And we're simply going to lift the car with the suspension until it doesn't lift anymore. So you can see it goes to 8-9%. So somewhere around here it stops lifting the car, which means that that is the right amount of suspension. The theory behind this is that you want the suspension to have about the same, maybe a little bit more lifting power than your car actually weighs. In the comment section below, I want you to post your cars that you've made with this new knowledge of knowledgeness. Because I'm interested in seeing cool cars, because recently the coolest thing I can find in Space Engineers is actually cars. They're really nice now that I've found out how to make them work. And I love it. This has brought my love for car into a reality. I've wanted to love cars in Space Engineers for so long, but it hasn't really been viable before. So build with this and show me in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. If you did not, feel free to leave a dislike. And I shall see you on next time.